What keeps you in prison in your own life? This is going to be the topic for today's hopefully brief live stream. What do I mean when I speak of these words, in prison in your own life? Basically, it's when things are done to us outside of our control, right? Because what does it mean to be in prison for real? Hello, being in prison, meaning that your will for life is taken away from you, and you are being controlled by what your circumstances will be, right? So you have no choice. So when it comes to being in prison in your own life, how can it show up? In multiple ways, but some of the examples would be, for you would want to have a specific type of relationship with, say, your parents or your children, but you keep falling back into having a relationship that you don't want to have. The dynamic is there, makes you feel drained, makes you feel unseen, makes you feel hurt, and you don't know how to get out of the situation, right? Another example would be, say, you have a job that pays for your livelihood, but you feel you are drained there. You feel that you could be doing so much more. And maybe you even know what you want to be doing, but you don't have time for it because your energy is taken to, to feed your family and to work this job. Or maybe there is a dynamic at the job that is also very unhealthy for you, and you feel drained, unseen, unheard, dominated, etc., right? Where your power is lost. You're at a loss of power. That would be one of the other examples of how you can feel imprisoned. And that can show up in so many ways, even with our health, when things are outside of our control, when we want to have something but it's not happening and we can't find a way of how to make it happen. And so we live in this sort of reality outside of the reality where we want to be. It's like between the two worlds. There is a world of responsibility, and then there is a world of a dream where we want to be, but there is no bridge between them, and we don't know how to get there. So I want to talk today and break it down as to how this is happening, why it's happening, and what can help to get you out of that state. We all live on autopilot. These are the systems that run us, right? This body is a big system. It runs on autopilot. You're not making decisions for most of the things that happen to you. And I call it like, it's all inertia, right? And that autopilot is actually good. There's nothing wrong with it. But sometimes, or oftentimes, with the history that we have, with the past that we have, with where we came from, our family lineage, or just even like the gender that you're in, it is programming you to be a particular way that you feel is not giving you the full freedom. So we have rules that we have to operate by. Hello. And they are sort of reasonable, right? There's a lot of responsibility, there is a lot of guilt, there is a lot of shame that can be involved in, say, for example, a family dynamic. You're supposed to be doing specific things. If you're not doing them, you will feel ashamed or guilty or judging yourself or others. And when it comes down to coming out of the prison, when it comes down to coming out of that lack of control in your life, we can break it down into two ways: the little you and the big you. This is so far the language that I'm choosing to use. The little you is not even the child, but it is very much related to your inner child. But it's that person who is a small part of the system, a person who doesn't have choices but is lived by the momentum that's been created behind them, the conditioning of the past. And this kind of person, and most of us are this way, is usually lived by what happened to them in the past. So sometimes you say, oh, what about if you do this? And they, no, I've tried it, it didn't work, right? So, or they live in the fear of the future. So it's either the past or the future. They very much lack that connection to the present moment. And that person, like I already said, is oftentimes motivated by the feelings of guilt, shame, judgment towards themselves, towards others. And it's a lot of that kind of responsibility where the system, the bigger system, say, you know, your job or your family system, they benefit from you having that lack of freedom, because in a way there's this sort of conditions in which you are given something, but you also have to pay a very big price for it, almost that kind of price where you feel like you're losing your sanity, you're losing your connection to your soul or a bigger you, or you're losing the connection to your dream, and so on and so forth. And then there is a bigger you. The bigger you is the you that is connected to the potential. So not to the past, not where you came from, not to your family history and all of the trauma that happened in your childhood and past lives, in your generations, which is tremendous, but to your future, to the potential that is sort of connected to your soul, right? To your higher self, of what is possible beyond those limitations of fear, judgment, and guilt and shame and things like this, where we are kind of hiding away. And that potential is that dream, but it's so far away, as it sometimes feels like it's impossible to bridge the two worlds. And at the same time, we really need to train ourselves to be in that bigger self. That bigger self can nurture the smaller self. So we're never breaking and diminishing the value of the smaller self, the one that is based on survival, right? The one that is helping us to keep the life that we have right now. It's an important one, it's a responsible one, and we want to really praise it for what it's given us, or we want to praise our family for what it's been given us, even if there are some, say, toxic kind of aspects involved in it. It helped us survive, it helped us to come to where we are right now. But moving forward, it's not enough. Yet that bigger part of us knows how to nurture and nourish and help the smaller part. So we never want to completely get rid of it. We will never get rid of it, but we can help to we can help it. Instead, because the smaller one is always looking for the bigger one. So say in the family dynamic, like child and a parent, the child always looking for the guidance of somebody bigger, right? So that smaller part is always looking for a guidance from outside, and that is where the bigger us can give that guidance, can help to nurture, to make that other one feel seen, heard, and accepted. Those are the foundations. But also the bigger aspect of ourselves can see the cause and effect of the circumstances that we're in right now. The circumstances which we feel like they're not so good, or maybe they're outside of our control, the bigger aspect of ourselves can actually see the value, can see the wisdom, can see that exactly this situation is needed to move to the next level. It's not that that situation is holding us back. That situation is fueling our growth. And the bigger aspect of ourselves is able to connect and see all the invisible dots and lines, how it's actually playing out for your benefit. And so it can see the value, it can see the cause and effect, and then of course it can start acting from that new state, the state that is outside of that, yes, we feel the fear, we feel the shame, we feel the guilt, but we act with the choice the choice, not the momentum that was built behind us, not what's pushing us from as our past, but the new choice from the potential that we're taking, and we're creating the step and the next step and the next step. So the solutions to your problem, the bottom line, the solutions to your problem live outside of your current reality. And that identity, that little self, that identity that we're stuck to, as much as it was helping us to get to where we are right now, it is also preventing us from moving forward, right? It's small, it's stuck. And the fact is that we will be breaking through the shell, if we're following that potential, to a bigger shell and to a bigger shell. And that will never end. This will be a journey of life, because we are humans that need mind, that need some sort of identity, and we will just be continuously breaking through it. But the goal is that we are actually breaking through it and growing, because if you already feel you are drained, if you already feel like you are dissatisfied with some aspects of your life, that means that you are not stepping into your potential. That means that something in you is holding you back. And how do we get out of this? Well, I have been in this kind of situation, or my whole life I've been on the journey of discovering all the ins and outs and ways of how can I live my free life in this very unfree world. And I have developed a system. I have developed a system that I'm now passing to people, that I'm helping other people to come through out of that imprisonment. Maybe a couple of words about my past and how basically I end up being in the position where I am, teaching this sort of like new person, new human kind of reality, how to connect to our higher self. You know, I was born into a very dysfunctional, let's just put it in a very simple term, dysfunctional household, child to both people who were had a very strong alcohol addiction, depriving them from their life, and basically a child born into the world and being completely unneeded. No one was there to take care of me, to rescue me, to save me, to show me the path, to guide me to how to live, what's wrong, what's right, etc. And from a very early age, I had to start making my own choices. And I also was born with this kind of future vision. I did see a lot of things that in this world are not working, and I could never understand why people do things like this is not working, this is not healthy. And I mean like at a very young age, 5, and not only I was looking at my peers, but also at adults. And so I could never fully trust the adults, because I was like, no, you guys are doing it backwards. And so I had those intuitive powers. I had the powers of really creating what we call right now manifesting, where because I was in extreme poverty and I didn't have anything or anyone around me, I would be in my world, in my dreamy world a lot, and I would manifest things that would come from nowhere, the things that the little child would want, right? Like a skirt or this and that, and I had no one to ask for it, or where would it come from, but those things were coming in. And at a very early age, I realized the connection between the mind, our energy, and the physical reality and how we can create it. So I always had the awareness of things that our past is creating our present moment. So when I was, I think, 8, my grandmother brought me to a neurologist because I had anger issues, and they gave me some sort of pills to help me. I was like, are you guys serious? what can, I don't need any pills. I am like this because of my past, because of what has been happening to me. So those are this is a little bit of my kind of like early background, and my whole life I've been on the search of how I can heal myself, how I can help to come out of that pain that's been not only in me but also in the generations of single mothers for so many generations before me, in my own family. And I went into psychology, I went into mathematics. I was always balancing this, the logical and kind of more of the spiritual world. I worked for a long time in nonprofit, worked in science, and for many years in spirituality. Always searching for how to make that path, how to bridge that world of when I feel like there is no control, because I also had, I suffered from addictions for a long time, and it's not enough to just say be strong. You have to have your will to come out of that, what you are not, what you're being like kind of trapped by. It's not enough. And so this whole system developed in me. I call it almost like a new human system, where we have to go through various processes. One of them is we have to understand what is the definition of this old world and what is the definition of this new world. How does this old world, where this little human, this little identity that is suffocated by, is being trapped by, and what would it be to mean to live in a new world? What it look like? What kind of set of rules are governing that kind of world? So we need to understand that on a conceptual level. We also need to understand what is it that I'm doing wrong right now, and every human needs to understand it for themselves. It's not something that I can just tell you. It needs to be observed through your life circumstances to understand what are your hooks. And then those hooks, of course, have roots in the past, in your past in this lifetime, in your past as far as your generational trauma, and of course your past lives. And this is one of the things that in the coaching world people usually lose you, but this is where I catch you, because this is a big topic of my path. And how can we heal that? How can we heal that past? Not to escape it, not to say, okay, move on, don't feel. No, that's another trap that we're setting ourselves to. But how can we actually deeply heal that traumatic experience that goes beyond this human life? But of course, we'll start with that. So, and then as we're healing that is basically the past that is creating our future, right? Because we are constantly creating future in the present moment. But the past is so strong that it's just basically moving us in the direction that we don't want to be going to. We need to heal it. And then as we heal it, then we are starting to retrain our system, to retrain our nervous system to like, what's different? Like, how do I live in a different way? How does it feel? How does it look? How do I act? And this is where we connect to that bigger part of ourselves that is not something that I tell you how to live your life. I help you to just get into that state where you connected to that expanded part of you while already been cleansed from a lot of conditioning, a lot of that autopilot mode, so that you can start choosing for yourself how to make that path out of your self imprisonment, of you feeling like you have no control. And the solutions are coming when you are in that open state, when you're in that creative state. And this is when we co-create our life. We co-create our life with life in general, that we're not feeling like we're just puppets to a bigger puppeteer. We are not feeling like we're in a prison. We understand that the life circumstances that we're in, the pain, all of the hurts, they are the fuel, they are the tools that we need to be using to help us to the new level. They are not there accidentally. They are not there just to keep us down. They're actually what we need. They're our foundation, and we need to work with that foundation to step up. So those are the processes that we use in my healing coaching containers. And I think I will end here because I need to get my daughter ready for school. But if you have any questions as far as maybe going deeper into some of the topics that I already discussed, or if you want to see for yourself how this may be working for you, I do offer the first session that is like an introduction, a complimentary session for those who actually are really feeling like, yeah, I got to some sort of like rock bottom. That's usually where we start moving up. We have to get to the rock bottom, which there is no judgment. And from that state, kind of going up and moving and starting taking new choices, making new actions to see yourself in a different light and to create the world outside of you in a different way. So I'm here. I'll be talking about this more. Please let me know if you have any specific questions about the systems that I'm using, or if you want to talk personally and see how this may be helpful for you. Every session that I do, it's not just like an intro, it's a full-on in-depth experience. So you would walk out with a lot of benefit just by having that one session. But of course, any real full-on results will be created only when we do things systematically. Like with anything, you go to the gym, you practice music, anything that you really want to see the result, you need to do systematically for a while before you see that in the physical. Okay, with so much love, thank you so much for being here with me, and we'll connect more.